48 hours ago, the United States and Israel launched airstrikes on Iran. The supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead. His daughter, his grandchild, dead. Iran is firing missiles at Israel, the UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia. The Middle East is at war. But here's the question almost nobody is asking right now. Was this inevitable, or was it a choice? Go back 8 years. May 8th, 2018. Donald Trump stands in the Rose Garden and announces the United States is withdrawing from the JCPOA, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the Iran nuclear deal. The deal took years to negotiate. Signed in 2015 by the US, UK, France, Germany, Russia, China, and Iran. The most complex diplomatic agreement in a generation. The terms: Iran limits its nuclear program, caps uranium enrichment at civilian levels, allows international inspectors. In return, sanctions lifted. Iran rejoins the global economy. It wasn't perfect. The sunset clauses, provisions that expired after 10 to 15 years, were a legitimate problem. Iran could eventually restart enrichment. The deal also did nothing about Iran's ballistic missiles or its funding of Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis. Critics were right to point that out. But it was working. International inspectors confirmed Iran was complying. The nuclear program was frozen. Then Trump pulled out. His reasoning: the deal was weak. The sunset clauses were unacceptable. Iran was still sponsoring terrorism. A better deal was possible. The better deal never came. Iran started enriching uranium again. First past the 3.67% cap, then to 20%, then 60%, then approaching weapons grade 90%. Inspector access was restricted. Monitoring gaps widened. By 2024, Israel and Iran were exchanging direct military strikes. By 2025, the US and Israel launched strikes specifically targeting Iran's nuclear facilities. By March 1, 2026, full-scale war. 8 years. From a deal on paper to bombs over Tehran. Here's what most people don't know about Trump's 2018 decision. His own cabinet was at war over it. Defense Secretary James Mattis argued strongly for staying in the deal. Not because it was perfect, but because withdrawal without a replacement would accelerate exactly the crisis the deal was designed to prevent. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson agreed. Flawed containment was better than no containment. On the other side, John Bolton, the most hawkish voice in Washington. Bolton had wanted regime change in Iran for decades. He saw the nuclear deal as legitimizing a terrorist state. He wanted out, not to renegotiate, but to confront. Trump sided with Bolton. Mattis and Tillerson were both gone from the administration within months. Now here's the fork in the road. What if Trump had listened to Mattis? It wasn't impossible. Trump respected Mattis. Imagine Mattis walking into the Oval Office that morning and saying, "Mr. President, I've fought more wars than anyone in this room. This deal is the alternative to one. Pull out, and we will be at war with Iran within a decade." What if that had landed? The European allies were desperate to keep the deal. Germany, France, the UK, they would have supported renegotiation immediately. Even Iran, facing sanctions pressure, had reasons to accept tighter terms. The sunset clauses, the biggest criticism, could have been extended. Missile provisions could have been added. Inspection regimes could have been strengthened. A harder deal, not a broken one. What if March 1st, 2026 was just another Monday in the Middle East? Trump announces he's staying in the JCPOA, with conditions. He gives Iran 90 days to accept tighter terms. Extended sunset clauses, stronger inspections, constraints on ballistic missiles. The Europeans celebrate. They've been begging Washington not to walk away. They immediately add their own pressure on Tehran. Iran calculates. Khamenei, pragmatic beneath the revolutionary rhetoric, sees that sanctions relief is worth more than centrifuges. He authorizes negotiations, 6 months of brutal diplomacy. Then a modified deal, JCPOA 2.0, tighter, longer, more verifiable. The short answer, it stays frozen. International inspectors maintain access. Enrichment stays capped. The breakout time, how long it would take Iran to produce enough material for a weapon, stays at roughly a year. Not eliminated, contained. A modified deal doesn't transform Iran. The Islamic Republic is still authoritarian, but the economy stabilizes enough that the moderate political faction has breathing room. The 2021 presidential election produces a less extreme figure, not a reformer, but someone the West can talk to. The regime doesn't open up, but it doesn't radicalize further either. And this matters, because in the real timeline, maximum pressure didn't weaken the regime. It strengthened the hardliners. Every round of sanctions gave them proof that the West could never be trusted. Every economic crisis let them blame America instead of their own corruption. Pressure without a diplomatic exit doesn't moderate regimes, it entrenches them. What doesn't happen? Split screen. War timeline versus peace timeline. No Israeli-Iranian strikes in 2024. No US bombing of nuclear facilities in 2025. No nationwide protests crushed by massacres in January 2026. No March 1st, 2026. No 555 people killed in airstrikes. No missiles hitting 6 countries simultaneously. No oil shock. No 3 dead American soldiers. Just an imperfect deal. Holding an imperfect peace. Now here's the part of this story that haunts me. Khamenei is 86. His health has been declining for years. In any timeline, alternate or real, he was running out of time. In the alternate timeline, he dies of natural causes. Probably 2026, maybe 2027. A natural death creates a succession crisis inside Iran. Factions compete. Reformists see an opening. The IRGC maneuvers. It's messy, but it's internal. It's Iran's future being decided by Iranians. In the real timeline, he's killed by American and Israeli bombs, along with his daughter, his grandchild. That doesn't create a succession crisis. It creates a martyr. A generation of Iranians who might have wanted change now have a reason to want revenge. Or do they? Shift. Iranian streets, celebrations. Khamenei monument toppled. Because here's what complicates every clean narrative about this war. When Khamenei's death was announced, Iranians took to the streets, not to mourn, to celebrate. They cheered. They toppled a monument to Ayatollah Khamenei, the founder of the Islamic Republic. Security forces opened fire on the celebrants. Some Iranians see this as an act of war. Others see it as liberation. The exiled son of the former Shah, Reza Pahlavi, called it a humanitarian intervention and urged Iranians to prepare for the collapse of the regime. Diaspora celebrations, lion and sun flags, competing narratives. Both things are true at the same time. This is a war. And for some Iranians, it might also be the beginning of freedom. That complexity is exactly what gets lost when we reduce this to deal good, war bad, or war necessary, deal weak. The truth lives in the space between those positions, and that space is where the next decade of the Middle East will be decided. Everyone has a take on the Iran deal right now. The hawks say you can't trust the regime. The deal was naive. Containment just delays the inevitable. Iran was always going to cheat. The diplomats say withdrawal created exactly the crisis the deal was designed to prevent. Inspections confirmed compliance. The deal was working. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Both sides are right, and both sides are wrong. The deal was buying time. The sunset clauses were a problem. Iran was funding terrorism while technically complying with nuclear limits. And withdrawing DID accelerate enrichment. DID collapse monitoring. DID set the clock running toward exactly the war we're watching right now. The hawks were right about the disease. The diplomats were right about the medicine, and Washington chose to throw away the medicine because it wasn't a cure. Here's what no one in that city ever seems to learn. In geopolitics, you almost never choose between good and bad. You choose between bad and worse. The JCPOA was bad. It kicked the can. It tolerated Iranian terrorism in exchange for nuclear limits. But destroying it was worse. It removed the limits and did nothing about the terrorism. And it put us on the road to March 1st, 2026. Sometimes the least bad option is the only good option you have, and destroying it because it isn't perfect guarantees you get the worst option instead. Here's where we are. US and Israeli forces are conducting active operations across Iran. Khamenei is dead. Iran is firing missiles at 7 countries. 3 American soldiers are dead. The Iranian Red Crescent says 555 Iranians have been killed. Trump says 4 weeks. Iran says no negotiations. Oil is surging. Markets are falling. The world is holding its breath, waiting to see if this escalates further, or if it somehow doesn't. 8 years after Trump withdrew from the nuclear deal, we are in the war that deal was designed to prevent. And in the streets of Iranian cities, people are celebrating the death of the man who ruled them for 35 years, while security forces shoot at them for celebrating. That's not a clean story. It's both. It's neither. It's a country full of people who wanted their dictator gone, and might have gotten that anyway, without the bombs, without the dead children, without the missiles flying in 7 directions. In the alternate timeline, the deal holds. The nuclear program stays frozen. Khamenei dies of old age in a hospital bed, and Iran gets to decide its own future. In the real timeline, someone else decided for them. History will judge whether that was necessary, but a decision made in a rose garden in May 2018 is the reason we're asking the question at all. Was this war inevitable, or was it a choice made 8 years ago? I don't have the answer. I'm not sure anyone does yet, but the question matters. Subscribe to Parallel Silicon. Stay safe out there.